Ulele? Ulele? Have you ever wondered how it was pronounced? Have you ever wondered who Princess Ulele is? Sit tight, you're gonna find out. We're gonna talk with Richard Gonzmart and find out how Tampa's hottest new dining destination came to be. Also, it's summertime. Everyone's out and about. You're gonna go behind the scenes and learn what Tampa's Parks and Recreation Security Division does for you to make sure you have a safe and enjoyable summer and enjoy Tampa's beautiful green space and beaches. Sit back, we're gonna have some fun on Que Pasa Tampa. This is Tampa. This is my home, full of hidden treasures and a vast culinary culture. Our rich history leads to an even brighter future. We'll talk to locals who know the ropes, find the flavor of the city, and explore Tampa's remarkable past. Richard, I am so excited to be here with you today in front of Ulele Restaurant. I got to tell you, this is amazing. Who would have thought 5 years ago this would be like this today?
Well, you know, I didn't even know this building existed 5 years ago, but I was in search of the perfect location, a historical building along the Hillsborough River, and all of a sudden the city put an RFP in, and the rest is history now.
And you know, now you come through here, there's people walking, you can't get a parking space, and what beautiful space had gone to waste for quite some time.
You know, before we started the project, we were negotiating. My wife told me I was crazy. My chief financial officer says, "Do you realize the risk you're taking?" Nobody in the family was happy that I was doing this because it was all run down.
Sure.
But I saw this jewel that existed, and today it was re-energizing Tampa Heights.
You know, this vision that you have, I just don't get it, and I guess that's a big difference between you and I, because I would have to agree with Melanie, you're crazy, but look at this, and I'm so glad you did it.
Well, Melanie, you know, she's a wonderful supporter. When it was done, she told me, you know, I didn't see it, but I get it now. I'm so happy you did this. And so
you got this idea because I know you're a world traveler. Tell me a little bit about how this came to be.
You know, where we are right now is 4 blocks from where I was born at St. Joseph Hospital, and the next block is where my grandparents lived with my mom when she was growing up. So it was just time to come home again. And when I found this beautiful building that was the source for the City of Tampa water in 1903 to the 30s, I thought about that this water is the water my great-grandfather and grandfather used at the Columbia restaurant. So it just made sense that I come in here, right here along the Hillsborough River, which I think is such a great, beautiful jewel. I'm proud to be anchoring the end of the Riverwalk here and at the beginning or the end at the Tampa History Center.
Yeah, the Riverwalk is just amazing. And the water, you said this is actually a spring?
People don't realize there's 6 springs in here. This, again, was the source for the City of Tampa water. And we're pumping it out from the spring right up into the fountain here that represents the Native American Indian Princess Ulele. And then it flows right back into the spring.
Yeah, this is absolutely beautiful. And at first I thought you just made this name up, but no, she is a real princess.
You know, the story says that in 1528, she saved a 17-year-old Spanish sailor, Juan Ortiz, from being burned to death by her father, the chief, Heridoga. But he was really a peaceful person, peaceful Native Americans that lived here. It was just the European settlers brought in disease, which killed them and weren't necessarily nice to him. So here she is. She saved that young Spanish sailor, and her hand over her heart, hand extended, telling her father, "Stop, don't kill him, he's too young," but it's my belief that she was in love with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I love the food here, that's the main thing, but there's so much history here as well.
When I was a young boy, I used to go to the Plant Park, University of Tampa, with my grandfather, and I have fond memories of seeing the bronze of the dogs and seeing the minnows in the little streams. I would ask my grandfather to take me there. So that's the reason for doing this statue. You don't have to come in and dine. I just want you to bring your family, your children, your grandchildren, those that visit, to talk about the people that lived here prior to the settlers that came in.
Yeah, I really didn't realize until I was doing the history, some research to come and talk with you today, that the Tocobagan Indians were here. And I learned something, so that's a good thing.
You know, when I met with the Seminole Indian tribe to make sure what I was doing was to get their approval, that I told them I understand that Native Americans, that water represent life. And gosh, we need water for life. They said, that's right. I said, I want to bring the water from the spring, which represents Ulele, in here. And I said, understand that fire represents the spirit. said, that's correct in our culture as well. I said, well, the spirit of Ulele lives within me. And I think about Ulele, U-L-E-L-E. And my mom lived 5 blocks up. And my children called her Lele, L-E-L-E. Oh. My mom was a compassionate, loving person.
She was unbelievable.
So I think she was a reincarnation of Ulele. And so it was just, that's what it means to me. When you see the name and I put it all together, these are the behind the scenes, why I did what I did.
Yeah, it's just, and there's a lot of them here, because I understand their doors are in here, some glass stained doors.
We have some stained glass windows that my parents bought in 1971. They're from 1767. They should be in a museum, and when they passed away, we took them out of the home before we sold it, and we've had them in storage. And I feel like my mother and father and my grandparents and great-grandfather here watching me.
Oh, absolutely, and watching you proudly. And you have artwork from all over the world, but from some local artists as well, huh?
You know, it's about representing the local artisans, and we hired 6 different artisans that are within 2 miles to do the project here. People don't realize the table bases were made by one local person. The table tops, which are old wood from a barn that's 150 years old, was located less than 2 miles from here. So it was getting them an opportunity to showcase their work.
It's just unbelievable. And now let's talk about the menu. Because, I mean, this is just amazing and something you don't find everywhere.
You know, and what I wanted to do is recreate the way it was when my family started the restaurant business. Everything was fresh, locally sourced, no freezers. So we're working with as many ranchers and farmers that we can here, and fish that have been caught off the Gulf of Mexico and the bays. Our vegetables are as much as possible from this area. Our beef comes to Strickland Ranch, who's a 3rd-generation rancher, Jim Strickland, and the beef has no antibiotics or hormones, and it's just the best steak I've ever had. They usually have the cows born, ship them out to the Midwest where they finish feeding them. It's cheaper to do that, but he wanted to stay here. We have our own brewery, so he backhauls all the grains that we use from the brewery to feed to the cattle that will eventually feed our guests.
That's awesome. I did notice you have a lot of gluten-free products, and then a lot of the products really seem to be what the Native Americans might have eaten.
Well, it's what they might have eaten, but with today's twist, because I promise you we wouldn't be able to eat it.
No. Or want to.
You know, we have a bean that's called a crocodile bean, and it was beans that are actually grown in Florida. I didn't realize these beans were here. And so, you know, we have the alligator hush puppy.
Oh, yeah.
So it's little pieces of alligator. We're looking at the people are being adventuresome. We had pulpo carpaccio and octopus that's sliced very thinly. And I was concerned whether people would try it. And people are being adventuresome. And it's really tasty.
Oh, I'm sure, and I'm sure it sparks a lot of conversation too.
You know, all the food, the oysters are from sourced from the Gulf of Mexico. And I'm in the process of trying to lease 5 acres out underground water, underwater. Grounds to have my own oyster farms.
Oh my God! Oh.
Listen, you gotta have fun.
You know, you just amaze me. You're like the human Energizer Bunny. Just when people would think you'd be slowing down, you're picking up the speed.
You must be talking to my wife. She says the same thing. I should be slowing down. You know, I put a goal to retire in 10 years when I'm 72. So I've got a lot to do.
I believe it when I see it, okay?
Yeah.
I think at 72, you'll be thinking of something else. I know you have a couple other big projects in the works.
We're working to restore the memory of Goody Goody hamburgers. The first I'm driving in the southeast of the United States. It's a place I used to love to get their special hamburger with the POX, pickles, onions, and special sauce.
Heard all about it.
And we're making the pies, again, like from scratch, all fresh fruits, and making the pies to order. We're gonna even be making our own buns because I don't want any preservatives in the buns like they used to do. So I'm going back to the way things were done.
I'm telling you, your parents are just looking down on you and just so proud and just so amazed.
Oh, listen, they're lucky.
Yeah, and then talk about, I know you have Casa Santo Stefano?
Casa Santo Stefano, which is a Sicilian-themed restaurant. 60% of the population of Santo Stefano in Sicily immigrated to Tampa, Ybor City in particular, in the late 1890s, early 1900s. But that food has disappeared. As a child, I used to visit a friend, the Guariardo family from Florida Dairy, and I love the food, so I'm going to restore that. I
tell you what, my paternal grandfather was from Santo Stefano, so I'm just so excited.
So are you willing to join the Santo Stefano tasting team?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I'm looking for people to help taste our goody pies, and coconut cream, butterscotch.
Listen, then I'm going to have to make sure I do Richard's Run for Life and all the runs if I'm going to be doing that. I'm so excited.
Me too. It's just so much fun. We're having fun, and you know, Tampa's a great city.
Oh, yeah.
And under the leadership that we currently have, it's inspired me to continue staying right in Tampa, keeping our money here, giving people opportunity to find a job, and working with high schools and giving them the hospitality program students an opportunity to intern. It's just so rewarding.
I tell you what, Richard, you are truly Tampa's favorite son, I'm sure, and we're just so blessed to have you.
Thank you very much.
I love learning about Tampa history and just talking with you and being here, and I just can't thank you enough.
Thank you very much.
You're a gem.
It's an honor.
Love you.
Thank you. Love you too. Thank you, sweetheart.
Well, I'm here talking with Chief Security Officer Gary Undershot from the Parks and Rec Department. Thank you, Gary, for being here with me today.
You're welcome.
So tell me, you're Chief Security Officer, so I take that to mean you have some security officers, and what do you do?
Well, we have 2 chief security officers, Alvin Lewis plus myself. We have 8 officers underneath us. So what we do, we patrol the parks and recreations, enforce rules and regulations of each park. We have over 170 plus parks and recreation facilities that we do patrol. We break it down in 4 districts: north, east, west, and south. Also, there's a wide variety of parks within each area. So everybody thinks that we just turn keys and open and lock up parks. Well, that's not all we do. We go into each park and patrol and see if there's anything going on, illegally parked vehicles, anybody doing anything out of the ordinary. Also, dogs off leash, we have to enforce that. Dogs do have to be leashed. They have to be in your control, a 6-foot leash. The only time they're authorized to be off the leash is if they're in a dog run or dog park. And you can go ahead and find all the phone numbers and park information on the City of Tampa website, tampagov.net.
Right, so your job is to make sure people are happy in the parks and safe and following the rules, right?
Correct.
And that's kind of hard to do sometimes, because I know here in Florida with the beautiful weather we have, the parks get pretty packed and people want to just do what they want to do.
Yes. Well, people come out in the parks, they don't think, they come out here, they don't read the rules and regulations that are posted at front gates of each and every park.
Sure, they're getting in to have fun.
Yes. And, we have the rules and regulations signs posted throughout the parks. So if you take your time, go ahead and read those. You shouldn't have an issue. Take this park, for instance, Cypress Point. On the weekends when it's hot, it's real busy. I have parking issues. It gets overcrowded. It gets more than to capacity. So basically what we do when we come out here, we'll look for parking violations within the park. Parking along the right-of-way outside that road is not authorized. No parking on the right-of-way.
Right, because you need to make sure everyone can safely get in and out.
Right. And we walk around the parks. We check for any violations out on the beach. At this park, no dogs are allowed on the beach. We do have beach parks for the dogs, Davis Island and Picnic Island. When we come out here, we'll walk the beach and check for dogs on the beach, and of course we have to tell them, look, you have to take the dog off the beach. You're more than welcome to stay within the park, but take them to the green space. Also, we'll check for alcohol violations. There's a lot of that out here, and we have to advise them, hey, there's no alcoholic beverages allowed in the park whatsoever, especially with glass containers.
Sure.
So, actually, I do at times tell them that they have to get rid of it, go put it up in their vehicles. And some of them, some patrons, they're helpful in it, and they'll do what's asked of them. And then we also educate them, say, look, in the future, no alcoholic beverages are in the park, because we've got so many other parks to patrol. We'll come out here and we'll check.
Sure, and absolutely, and we want everyone at our parks, our four-legged friends as well, and that's why we have some designated for that. But I guess the main thing is there's rules, but the rules have a reason to make sure everyone can enjoy all this beautiful green space and beach space.
Right.
And I saw a sign where it talked about no amplified music. I guess that probably can get to be an issue too sometimes.
Well, with the amplified systems, everybody gets carried away sometimes with that, because you might have an amplified system in one shelter, and then you might have another one other shelter, and they're trying to outdo one another. So,
and the person laying in the middle trying to have a peaceful afternoon isn't getting that.
Is getting aggravated and stuff, and we'll get phone calls called in our office. They're playing amplified music. So we'll come out here, hey look, you gotta take the amplified system out. You're more than welcome to bring in a handheld radio and play that, but keep it within the shelter.
Sure.
You know, so other people can enjoy their picnics.
So I heard you say that you get calls. So people call you, in addition to you monitoring all of these parks, they can call.
Right.
And they typically call for what? Emergency issues?
Basically, it's if somebody has amplified music or somebody's fighting in the park, you know. And if they're fighting in the park, just go ahead and call 911 or Tampa Police Department. We'll try to get out there as quickly as possible. But mind you, we do have 170 plus parks and recreation facilities we have to control, and on any given shift I may have 3 to 4 people, so that's a lot of area to cover.
So you're spread pretty thin,
Yes.
covering all City of Tampa area.
Yes, ma'am. Anywhere from New Tampa all the way down to Picnic Island, all the way over to Ben T. Davis, Courtney Campbell boat ramp, all the way to Grant Park in East Tampa.
Wow, that's a big area, and your job is especially difficult because you have to enforce the rules, but do it in a way that you're not offending people because you want them to come back and enjoy our parks and rec facilities. Has that been a challenge for you?
Yes, ma'am. Basically, what we want to do, we want to try to educate people before we try to enforce, and we want to try to work with people before we have to go to the last resort, like i.e. writing parking violations or even calling TPD to assist us in trespassing someone.
Wow. Now, I would imagine with all this beautiful space, sometimes you probably come across some wildlife that we really don't want to have next to us when we're laying out during the day. Is that an issue?
Yes, ma'am. For instance, we have coyotes that go into Woodlawn Cemetery, and we've actually taken photos of the coyotes in the cemetery. Also, you got snakes, you got squirrels, you got alligators. I've actually ran across one big alligator trying to go on North Boulevard out of one of the lakes in Lowry Park, and that was a jaw dropper.
Wow, so you really never know what you're gonna, when you put on your uniform and report to work every day, you really don't know what you're gonna see.
Right. Basically, all I know for sure is that we're closing up parks. Anything other than that, I really don't know what's in store for us.
You know, and that's actually a really good thing, the fact that you do have people come into our parks, enjoying our green space, enjoying our waterways. You know, we have some trees, and sometimes when the weather isn't so good, I understand they call you for tree emergencies, True, is that right?
We'll go out, we'll get calls from Tampa Police Department that we have trees down out in the road. What we do, we usually go out and we'll check them. And then if need be, we'll go ahead and either take care of it. We do have 2 chainsaws within our possessions. Either we'll cut it up if it's small enough. If it's a big one, we'll have to call the forestry. And I usually call the forestry supervisor, and if we can't get a hold of anybody after hours, he'll go ahead and contact the contract monitor.
You know, speaking of safety, I've noticed where it talks about grills. How can bringing your own grill be a problem when you have to use the City of Tampa grills?
Well, when most people bring their own grills, is that they have the hot coals that are within inside the coals, and whenever they get ready to leave, they'll go ahead and dump them on the ground, which if they don't put out the coals with water or sand or anything like that, it'll start fires. I've been called out to this park numerous times to put out forest fires by the palm trees behind me.
Oh.
So, but we prefer that they use City of Tampa grills only due to that fact, because we do have the coal stations by the grills.
Well, then that makes perfect sense. You see, I know that there was a reason for every rule.
Yes, ma'am.
So, given that this is such a big area, it's got to take you a lot to walk around here. Tell me, I'm sure you have different means of transportation and ways of making sure you're getting to everyone.
Yes, ma'am. We have 2 segways that we're utilizing. We got those when they had the RNC down here in Tampa. We got them from TPD, so whenever they need them, they'll come and ask us for them, and whenever they're finished with them, we'll get the 2 back. So what we do, we load them up on the trucks, and then we'll go ahead and take them off the trucks, come to the park, we'll put on our safety helmet, our gloves, and we'll go ahead and get on them. And it's just a much easier way to patrol the park, get through the pathways. That way you're not bringing a vehicle through the pathways, and you know, and speed with the vehicle is you know, more safety.
Yeah, and you're more accessible to the people too, because if they see you on the Segway, they might stop you and ask you a question or something.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to communicate with people. You know, it's just much more friendly. You're not behind the steering wheel than talking to somebody.
Sure.
Also, we were trying to implement bicycle patrol, but we have yet to do that. I'm still working on that. It's just means of transportation is to get to, you know, go ahead and meet people, get out of the vehicle, get some exercise for the officers, you know. So, but yeah, that's basically it. Or else we get out there and walk.
Sure. And you know, you told me a little bit about the different things you do. Tell me about the craziest thing you've ever seen, or the strangest encounter you've had.
Well, the weirdest thing I had an officer go ahead and catch 2 grave robbers inside Woodlawn Cemetery. One actually got away. He jumped over the fence, and that was probably about a 20-foot drop. Wow. He was probably hurt, but that guy was never caught. The one guy that made threats towards the officer got caught, and that was a pretty unusual experience.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So you work really closely with TPD.
Yes, we do carry TPD radios, and if we need them real quickly, we'll get on the radio and go ahead and contact them that way. Sometimes we'll contact a non-emergency number, and sometimes we'll meet out with the officers out in the parks, and we'll walk the parks.
Well, I tell you the truth, Gary, I've learned a lot in talking with you today, and I've taken you for granted like I'm sure a lot of people do. So I just really want to thank you for being out here, keeping us safe, and enjoying our beautiful parks and rec beaches and space. As always, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed your time as much as I enjoy spending time with you. I'll see you next time on Que Pasa Tampa.